All right, hello and welcome everyone. We are here at the Understanding Behavior live stream study hall. I'm so glad that you guys are here. Looks like we've got a lot of people here today, so thank you so much for showing up, ready to learn. I also see that many people have already put some topics into chat, so that is great. Looks like we've got a pretty good list to go over. A couple more things we'll add here. We can also add some functional assessment on there. Thank you, Robin. CMOs, experimental design. I think this might be a lot here. Miss TJ, welcome. Glad you're here for the first time. Excellent, excellent. Well, very cool stuff, guys. A couple things before we get going. If you like my style of teaching, make sure to check my shop out at understandingbehavior.shop. I'm really excited. We've grown this YouTube channel over 150 subscribers in the last month. So thank you guys so much for being here and helping me along on this journey. It's been really cool, and I can't wait to keep providing these free resources for you all. Awesome. Yeah, Miss TJ got some other things there. So yeah, that's some pretty broad categories there. If you could narrow those topics, Miss TJ, that would be awesome. So otherwise, I don't know. We could be here for days. Thank you guys so much. We're gonna be here for an hour crushing these out. We've got a great list already, so why don't we go ahead and start tackling some topics. So first of all, we had somebody ask about condition reinforcers versus a generalized condition reinforcer. So first of all, let's even go over like the basic definition of a reinforcer. So this is a stimulus that increases the future frequency of a response it follows. So that's one part of our reinforcer definition. And there's another part too, is that it's also a stimulus that decreases the future frequency of a response that its removal follows. So first of all, let's talk about this first definition in chat. What kind of basic contingency are we talking about here? So either like positive, negative, reinforcement, or punishment. This first part of the definition, what kind of contingency is that referring to? Let's see that answer in chat. So we got positive. A positive what? Nice, Robin's on it. Anybody else? Cool. Yeah, this one is going to relate to like our positive reinforcement. Good. Yeah, nice, Tina there. Way to complete it. And then how about this second part of our definition? What contingency is this going to relate to? What do you guys think? This one's a little trickier. Cool, a couple mixed answers here. Make sure your answer is a 2-word answer. Awesome. Yeah, Robin, Ava, absolutely killing it. Excellent. So this one is going to be our negative punishment. So negative punishment, that's when we remove a reinforcer and then we see that behavior decrease. And it makes sense because like the simplified version of that is that when we do a behavior and it results in the loss of our cool stuff, we're going to do that behavior less because we like our cool stuff. We don't want it to go away. And then condition reinforcers. So this is a stimulus that is a reinforcer due to pairing with another reinforcer. So the pairing procedure is what converts a neutral stimulus into a learned reinforcer. And this is done through temporal pairing. And when we see that word temporal, it just means like at the time. So this is stimuli that occur at the same time. Or that have some kind of relationship to each other. So, for example, the site of this water bottle for me is paired with water. So that is a pairing procedure that it has taken place. That there's a relationship between the site of this water bottle, this blue metal container, and water. So that's made my water bottle a learned or conditioned reinforcer. And then we're talking about generalized conditioned reinforcers. There's not a whole lot different. So whenever we see that word generalized, we're usually referring to many. So this is not only a stimulus that's a reinforcer due to pairing with another reinforcer, but the key word is with many other reinforcers. So that is our only difference here. So if we think about like the best example of generalized condition reinforcers is money, because money is paired with access to a wide variety of reinforcers. Like money is not used to only get one thing. It's not like it's a coupon to get one free pizza. This is a coupon to get that can be redeemed for anything. So money is a great example of that. Also, when we have like our true token economy, our tokens can be generalized condition reinforcers as well. So if the tokens are paired with more than one reinforcer. Cool. So that is our condition reinforcers and generalized condition reinforcers. Let me know if you guys have any questions about those. Just key things to point out here are that these are made through pairing procedures, and that's just paired through this two stimuli occurring at the same time or being related to each other in some way. And when we see generalized condition reinforcers, that just means that it's paired with many different things. So if we're looking at scenarios and the stimulus that has become a reinforcer is paired with more than one thing, then it's going to be a generalized condition reinforcer as opposed to a conditioned reinforcer. Cool beans. Awesome. I think this is actually the highest amount of concurrent viewers we've had here. So 24 people. Awesome. Thank you guys so much here for being here and learning. If you could, if you haven't yet, press that like button so we can get that number even higher. It would be so cool. All right. Woo woo. Let's go. Next up, let's talk about errorless learning versus graduated guidance. So errorless learning. This definition kind of seems like a little bit of cop-out, but it's a method of teaching that minimizes the amount of errors that students can make. So ideally, we want it to be truly errorless, where they aren't going to make a single mistake throughout, but sometimes that's unrealistic. But errorless learning essentially means we're doing the best that we can to minimize the amount of errors. So most errorless learning methods, you'll see like use some kind of like most to least prompt hierarchy. And when I say that term, a lot of you are probably thinking about most to least as like, okay, first we'll full physical prompt, then we'll partial physical prompt, then we'll gestural, and then we'll leave it just with our verbal SD. So that's one way to do it, but what I want you to think about is this term is most to least prompting is a little bit more broad of a term. So this can also include things such as prompt delay. So in a prompt delay procedure, we're providing the most intrusive prompt at the beginning, which is that 0-second prompt delay. So immediately after the verbal SD, I'll be providing that prompt. So think about it, that's the most intrusive prompt that we're going to be using. And then later on, we're going to be delaying that, which is a less intrusive. So we've moved from most to least here. So think about that as more of a broad term. Mostly prompt hierarchy is just like we're starting with the most intrusive and then we're going to less intrusive. So I'm starting with most intrusive prompts that we intend to use, and gradually move to less intrusive. I'm just going to say and move to less intrusive prompts. So, so anything that kind of falls under that category is going to be errorless learning. Graduated guidance is a little bit different. It could potentially be seen as a form of errorless, and actually no, I'm going to take that back. It's not really a form of errorless learning, but it's pretty close. So here, what we're doing is we stand nearby the learner and provide the necessary prompts that will successfully guide them through a task, especially if we have like a step that is unknown or less familiar. So let's say we're teaching somebody how to clean the dishes, and they know how to like operate the sink, and like they have the soap and the scrubber and everything. So graduated guidance, let's say they're there, they stand at the sink and they're like grab a plate, but they haven't turned on the water yet. So what you might do is kind of like gesture to the water there, or you may even provide physical prompts and just like physically interrupt that and be like, all right, here's the next step, moving it to the turning on the water. And then let's say they start grabbing the soap independently, and you just let them keep going, do the things that they do correctly. And if they kind of like stray off, then you'll just be there to kind of like prompt and guide them through the task. So that's graduated guidance. Honestly, it's not really something that I use. Like, I prefer like promoting independence right from the start. This is kind of like a strategy if you just need to like get them through the task. It can be good for learning, but we're kind of like there prompting all the time. So there is a kind of a high risk of prompt dependency when you're using graduated guidance. All right. I wasn't totally sure on what somebody put something about like a performance diagnostic or performance diagnostic checklist into chat. If you could like elaborate a little bit more about like the components that you really want to go over here. This is not something that would like if you're thinking about like a specific like performance diagnostic checklist. That's not going to be something that's going to be directly on the exam. But if you want to just talk about like how to evaluate performance in general, we can absolutely do that. So whoever that was, I'm going to move on for now, but let me know a little bit more details of what you're looking at, and we can certainly dive in. Okay, let's go ahead. We're going to talk about alternative versus concurrent schedules. We'll do that first, and then I see a little bit more about like what you're talking about here. So training, task for clarification. Yeah, okay. We can talk about that, but we'll hit these compound schedules first. Cool. So alternative versus concurrent schedules. These are both concurrent compound schedules of reinforcement. Let's break that down because there's a lot of big words in one definition. So concurrent, what this means these are like simultaneous. I'm going to say this a little bit differently. These are simultaneously presented compound schedules of reinforcement. So simultaneously presented, what this means is that both schedule or like multiple schedules of reinforcement are available at the same time. Then we have compound schedules. This just means more than one. So that's what we're working with here. We've got more than one schedule of reinforcement, and they're available at the same time. So that's true of both of these. First of all, we'll talk about our concurrent schedules of reinforcement. So this is all of the available contingencies of reinforcement at any given time. So I'm a human here. Let's talk about some contingencies of reinforcement, or just any contingencies that are available to me right now. I can stop and ask you guys questions. There's some cool contingencies with that. We get the chat rate up. I love seeing that. It's a reinforcer for me. I can continue to blabber at you guys. That helps me like get really good content to clip out, which is cool as well. It helps me kind of like give this full explanation and try to like convey things in a more thorough, deep way. Also, I could just end this stream and be like, screw you guys, I'm gonna go do something else. But I don't want to do that because I really value giving you guys this type of content. Additionally, I could take a sip of water, and you'll notice like as I talk more that my mouth gets a little sore, and that actually increases my motivation for drinking water, which it has an evocative effect on this behavior. So all these are different schedules of reinforcement that are available right now. And usually when we're looking at concurrent schedules of reinforcement, we're comparing it to matching law. In matching law, what this essentially states is that the rate of reinforcement for any given behavior will equal the proportional amount of behavior compared to other schedules of reinforcement. So that's the really technical definition, and everybody loves this definition better, and I kind of do too, is that like behavior goes or reinforcement flows. So the places where there's more reinforcement, we're going to allocate a higher proportion of our behavior towards those schedules. And the schedules with more punishment, more extinction, less quality reinforcement, those behaviors are going to be diminished in our repertoire, but the extent will depend on those reinforcement and punishment rates. So when we're looking at this, it's just multiple. It's again just multiple schedules of reinforcement available at the same time, and we're looking at how those can be allocated. So there's not really a limit to like how many schedules of reinforcement can be available at the same time, but usually like when we're looking at clinical or any kind of example, we're looking between like a relevant response class. So for example, if I'm looking at like basketball players, they pulled a couple stats of the different behaviors there. So it's like 2-point shots made. Sorry, not just the number of shots made, but the number of shots made that resulted in points. And then they have the same things for 3 points, and then we get that percentage. And then we have like number of blocks or number of fouls, things like that. And we can see like the behavior kind of shift to those different reinforcement rates. Cool. So that's our concurrent schedules of reinforcement. We have now our alternative schedules of reinforcement. So these are much different. So this is also a simultaneously presented schedule. The main thing to focus on here is it's always one ratio and one interval schedule for the same behavior. So here's an example. I could tell a student that you can either complete 10 math problems, or after the bell, I'll have you finish your last one. Then you can turn it in and get a sticker. So here's our two different schedules of reinforcement. Let's just say after the bell, and the bell is 10 minutes. Let's make it 8 minutes just to make the numbers different. So in this one, what we have is we have FR10 schedule. So they can complete the 10 math problems, immediately turn it in, and then get a sticker. Or they could go with the fixed interval schedule. So this would be wait 8 minutes, do one more problem, and then you'll get the sticker. And it's likely like they're not going to just wait and do the one problem after the time, unless they're like real smart Alex, but whatever. So they probably would do the problems before the time anyway. So that's our alternative schedule. And while we're here, we may as well go over the conjunctive schedule, because it's extremely similar. So the main differentiator for this alternative schedule is that if either of the schedules is completed, then a reinforcement is provided. Our conjunctive schedule is actually going to be pretty much the same thing. It's, again, simultaneously presented set of schedules. It's one ratio and one interval for the same behavior. So let's get those highlights in there. And then instead of it being either of the schedules completed, a conjunctive schedule, think about like conjoined, this requires both. So now they must do the ratio and the interval schedule to get the reinforcer. So our example is going to change a little bit. So after you complete 10 math problems, then complete one more after the bell, then you can turn in your work and get a sticker. So that's our conjunctive schedule. The only difference between alternative and conjunctive is in alternative, you can do either or. So we can choose one option or the alternative option. But in the conjunctive schedule, we must tackle both, or conjoined twins, both of these schedules. Both the ratio and the interval schedule must be completed, then the reinforcement is provided. So concurrent versus these two, pretty different. Again, main thing you really want to focus on, concurrent can be any amount of behaviors, any amount of schedules. Alternative or conjunctive is always one ratio, one interval. Honestly, I don't really know why these terms are on the test. Nobody uses these at all. I don't think they're really that useful in the field. Okay. Yeah, so I believe it was Ava wanted to go over like the performance diagnostic checklist. Let me see if I can find like a good one on Google that we can pull up real quick. Again, I don't think like this is a cool like OBM topic, but not something that you're gonna have to like specifically memorize for the test. And we can kind of just go over some of these components, and we probably won't go over all of them, but the things that you're most interested in, we totally can. Yeah, I'm not finding like an easy performance diagnostic checklist. But let's talk about just performance in general, though. I think I know how I might take this. Okay, so whenever we're doing like performance issues, like to assess, well, the first thing you want to do is do some kind of assessment, and this might involve like a checklist. The checklist is definitely a tool that's going to get you to like a structured way to find out, identify the issues. Again, this we're kind of like more on the OBM side. You might be using part of this because as a BCBA, your main function is supervision of your behavior technicians in most roles. So it is good to get familiar with how to analyze performance and how to perfect performance, or at least improve performance to the best reasonable rates. So to assess performance, the main thing you want to do is like separate between can't do versus won't do problems. So with our can't do problems, usually we'll go to training. So can't do problems, we can define these as like something that the individual does not have the current capacity to do. So depending on what that issue is, like let's say they literally just don't know how to do it. Well, then we'll go to training. I'll actually say like, let's change this a little bit. So if they don't know how to do the task, go to training. If they don't have like resources for the task, then we'll like find better ways to do it without the resources, or acquire the resources. So for example, like if you run an ABA company and you have an online data collection system, then you should provide like an iPad or some kind of tablet for them, for the technicians to record the data, and not expect them to use their phones, because that might not be the right resource for the task. And if they're not doing it, then that's a clear reason. We just have to fill that gap or find a different way to do it. So those are like our main two can't do problems that we'll run into. Won't do problems, there's a gazillion of these, and again, you're kind of just have to kind of do the assessment to figure out like what, if this is a won't do, or like if this is a won't do problem. So with our won't do problems, this might be like a motivation thing. So they're like not like receiving enough reinforcement for work. You might also like think about like observation periods. So it's like can they get away without doing things for long periods of time? One way you might like change this is to do like random and more frequent observations. So if you like see like your your technician is giving your kid like 15-minute breaks for iPad after like 3 trials, then like doing like these more frequent observations might help, and providing that feedback as well. Honestly, this isn't like my forte, so I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time here with performance analysis. I would definitely like go and look at some tools and some OBM things to be on there. This is not like a big thing that's going to be on the test. Whenever we're doing training, we'll go to like competency-based training. I believe that's something we covered last week or maybe 2 weeks ago. And another term for that is behavioral skills training, and it's kind of like the gold standard for any kind of training for verbal individuals. Yeah, we had task clarification in here as well. So that might either be like a mix of a can't do or won't do problem, but analyzing like what you're doing and how that impacts your supervisee's behavior is absolutely huge for this. Cool. Okay, let's go over to our strategies for programming generalization. Why don't you guys throw these into chat, and then we'll go ahead and discuss them. Yeah, hopefully that was helpful, Ava. So programming generalization, what are our different strategies? Cool, yeah, we've got training loosely. Nice, Grace, good to see you here. Yeah, programming common stimuli. Awesome, Robin. Yeah, MET, that is one. So that stands for our multiple exemplar training. I feel like these are the 3 that get mixed up most frequently. Cool, what else do you guys got for programming for generalization? Yeah, MET's a cool acronym, and you'll see that like out in the field too. Good. Yeah, nice, Ava. We've also got mediation and general case analysis. Cool. Well, let's go ahead and review these. I'm actually going to start with the general case analysis because I think it makes most sense. Yeah, behavior trap as well. Yeah, a couple more things we'll add here. So behavior trap and negative teaching examples. Cool. Let's start with our general case analysis. So this is essentially an analysis of the environments and behaviors that are going to be programmed to have generalization. So in this one, we're not really doing anything. Focus on that word analysis. We're kind of just like scoping out the environment. We'll be like, okay, like mom's in this environment. Can she insist with this behavior here? Or like, what do you think is going to be like a really natural way to like keep this behavior going or like provide reminders without like being like too intrusive for our client? So that's our general case analysis. We're kind of just like thinking about all that information about and like how we want to design our program to do that. Can anybody help Bella out there and get the task list number for what we're talking about right now? Oh yeah, indiscriminable contingencies is another good one that we'll add to the list. Cool beans. Thanks so much for everybody helping out there. Love to see it. Okay. So training loosely, this is when we're varying up some of the less relevant details of the environment surrounding a behavior. So this might be just like kind of like the more like mundane things. So it's like, maybe it's the technician's shirt. Maybe it's like the color of the walls that they're in. Maybe it's like the part of the school that they're in. As long as those things like aren't super relevant to the skill, like aren't going to take like lots of programming to have them adjust to, then that's going to be considered training loosely. Programming common stimuli. I want you to focus on this word common with this term. So what we're doing here is we're keeping things similar across our training and environment setting and test environment settings to assist with skill transfer. So what this might look like if we're teaching somebody like how to make phone calls, like call their parents, we might do that with their same phone in all of their environments. So if they're at school, they have their phone. They're at home, they have their phone. They're out with their friends, they have their phone. So that thing is being consistent. Cool. Next one, multiple exemplar training. So this is when we provide many examples of the relevant stimuli during training. So has anybody here ever like been to a clinic and you're doing a DTT program and it's like where's the tiger, and that's the same picture of the tiger and they've been using it for like 6 months straight? That's the worst because it's only like one image. So they might, if we keep reinforcing this behavior and keep running these trials, what we'll see is that they might get more rigid. It'd be like, it's only a tiger if it has like the same exact branches and scenery. That's the picture that I've learned is tiger. And they see like a different picture of a tiger, let's say in like a desert versus a forest. And they're just like, whoa, you can't even identify as a tiger. So if we do that multiple exemplar training relatively early, then we're going to help promote generalization early, and the skills are going to be more transferable, and we're going to see more generative learning, because we don't want rigid learning that doesn't expand. We want learning to be generative, where what we teach is going to result in them learning even more over time and experience. Excuse me. So our next one here is mediation. This is making modifications in the natural environment to help assist or prompt desired behavior. So this might be like leaving schedules. It might be like leaving sticky notes around. It might just be like, hey mom, like Johnny really needs a reminder to brush his teeth. So if you like remind him right at 9 a.m., he said that's the time where he wants to be reminded. So if you could do that, that'd be dope. So that's an example of mediation. We're making that modification. We're hiring mom. Mom's always in the natural environment, and she's there to help assist or prompt the desired behavior. Sweet. All right. Behavior trap. This is when a behavior starts contacting natural reinforcement contingencies that maintain it. So, behavior trap, pretty straightforward, is that the behavior is contacting some kind of like automatic reinforcement, and that is what's going to like keep the behavior going. So, here's just like a quick example. Let's say a kid is at recess and he's always just like moping in the corner, and you're like, hey, like let's go check out the monkey bar. He's like, I don't really feel like it. It's like, and you're like, if you do, like, then I'll leave you alone for the rest of the day. Well, I'm gonna keep bugging you if not. So he's like, all right, negative reinforcement, here we go, let's go check the monkey bars out. So he rides them a little bit and then goes to something else, and then he goes back to them later. Without like any prompting or without even like the attendant seeing. So that would be an example of a behavior trap, because it's contacting reinforcement from naturally engaging the behavior, and that natural reinforcement for the behavior is what is going to maintain the behavior. So this is more of a strategy for like maintenance of behavior. So less about generalization, more about maintenance of the behavior. And then when we're talking about maintenance, that is going to be like the continuation of behavior. How are you guys feeling? Generalization, we've got two more here. One's pretty simple, one's a little tricky. But how are you guys feeling? Awesome. Love to hear it. Thanks, Robin. Okay, so negative teaching examples. This is when we're going to teach what not or when not to engage in a certain behavior. So, like, if you're teaching like checking out at like a cashier, you might teach them like good manners, but you also might teach them like, hey, if you say like give me my stuff, or like that should be free, or anything like that. That might be things that will teach that you shouldn't do in this case, and that might help promote the things that we should do even more. Awesome. Love it, guys. Glad you guys are here, rocking, feeling good. Miss TJ, Liddy, Antonio, and Natalie. Great to see you guys all here. Excellent. So negative teaching examples, fairly straightforward. So this word, indiscriminable. So indiscriminable is the opposite of discriminable. So when we have discriminable stimuli or discriminable contingencies, that means we have like stimuli that are associated with these different contingencies. In other words, we have SDs as deltas. And indiscriminable contingencies, that means we don't have a clear SDs, S deltas. So this is removing signals for different reinforcement schedules for a behavior to help maintain the behavior and have it occur under a wide variety of conditions. So what we're doing is that, like, no matter what we might do is we might, like, have the SD contingencies active in the S delta condition, and then we also might have the S delta be with the SD conditions as well. So that's going to break the discrimination. It's going to untrain it. And remember, discrimination and generalization are exact opposites of each other. So when we have less discrimination, then we're going to have more generalization. So the behavior is going to occur under more conditions. Cool beans. Alrighty. Let's go ahead and talk a little bit about functional assessment. So a couple things first. Let's talk about what, like, a function of a behavior is. I've noticed, like, when I've been asking this to students recently, everybody's just, like, labels the four functions. Well, I'm like, no, but, like, what is a function? And then it gets a little tricky from there. So this is the past consequences that have reinforced and maintained behavior. So, for example, if I say something has an attention function, then it means the main thing that has kept this behavior going in the past and is attention, and it's experienced a lot of attention, increasing the behavior. So we're always looking at the past consequences of behavior. We do have 4 functions of behavior. Can you guys list those out for me in chat? 4 functions. So I had 1 there. We had attention. Ooh, Robin's got a good list there. Who else got them? All right, let's go add this. Yeah, Natalie, perfect. So function, history of reinforcement of the consequences. Excellent. So yeah, Robin's got a great list there. Thank you so much. So we have sensory or automatic as well, escape, and then lastly, tangible. So these are every behavior is going to fit under one of these 4 categories or multiple of the categories, but that's all there is. And sometimes, like, you have to think about them a little bit abstractly as well, because, like, attention can come in lots of different forms, million different ways. There's also, like, millions of different ways to feel good. So think about these as very broad categories. All right, so we're talking about a functional assessment. What this is it's an assessment to discover the primary function of the behavior. And let's talk about why we do functional assessment. So we do these because research shows that function-based interventions are better than topography-based. So when our field first started in very crude ways with early behavior modification, a lot of the consequences were more topography-based. If you're familiar with, I think it's Sunnyside Center. That was one of the first, like, behavior modification centers in Florida. It was extremely crude and terrible for our field because they weren't doing behavior analysis, but they were doing, like, topography-based consequences. So it was like if one of their clients peed themselves, they would just have them sit in their diaper or sit in their wet pants for an extended period of time. So it's topography-based, and research shows that it's terrible. And then we need to do function-based intervention, so discover the why, and then base our clinical interventions off of that why to be more effective. Cool. So functional assessment, we can get pretty deep here. It involves 3 different components. So we have our indirect assessment, direct assessment, and then experimental manipulations. And you may have also heard this category called our FA, or functional analysis. Cool. So our indirect assessment, this is an assessment of behavior that does not involve directly observing the behavior. So what this might include is like checklists, interviews, questionnaires, things like that. Anything where we're not directly observing the behavior. Direct assessment, this is our, we can just take our definition from here, but we are directly observing the behavior, but not manipulating it. So what this involves is taking like ABC recording. This might involve like any kind of measurement procedure. So it could be like any continuous measurement or discontinuous measurement. Those are really our most common forms of direct assessments, that we're taking some data, we're taking ABC data, and we're starting to make predictions about the function of the behavior. So after our direct assessment, we are able to make those predictions. And usually at this time, even if we're not like 100% confident, let's say we have like a pretty good idea that it's there and we have data to do it. It's not just like gut feeling, because we want to base it off of data too. But we can try a function-based intervention at this point. So let's, or even do like a little test. And doing that little test is your experimental manipulation, and it can be less crude, but the most concrete way to do that is through a functional analysis. But the little test might be as simple as like, what if, let's say we think the behavior is attention maintained. Well, okay, so if we stop providing attention for this behavior, then if we see extinction effects, then we can confirm that this behavior is attention maintained. So that's all you really have to do. Let's just put this behavior on attention extinction, see if we see extinction effects. So if we see burst followed by a drastic decrease, boom, we figured and confirmed our function. If we did that and then like weird things happen, or like, oh, it didn't actually drop off drastically, then we're unsure. We haven't confirmed that yet, and we may need to move into a more intense form of an experimental manipulation like the functional analysis. So Natalie did request to go over each of these conditions, and she's one of my awesome students, so yeah, let's go do it. We've got 8 minutes, so we're going to go pretty fast, but let's do functional analysis. What this is it's a controlled experiment that tests the effects of different reinforcers on behavior. One of my favorite analogies for the functional analysis is like the allergy test metaphor. So you go to the doctor and you get an allergy test, and what they do is that they expose your body to a bunch of irritants and see what it reacts to. So we have that anaphylactic, let's see if I can spell this, reaction. And in a functional analysis, it's very similar. So what we're doing is we are exposing a behavior to a bunch of irritants or reinforcers and see what the behavior reacts to. So So that's a functional analysis. We're going to provide different reinforcers for this behavior. Then we're going to compare it to an experimental control condition because we're doing a tightly controlled experiment, and see which reinforcer results in the biggest increases of this behavior. And when we see that a reinforcer increases the behavior significantly more than a control condition, then we're confident that that thing is actually a reinforcer for the behavior, that it's responsible for maintaining and increasing the behavior. So we have our different conditions. All of our different conditions are going to provide the described reinforcer. So if the target behavior occurs. So if you ever do a functional analysis, it's like the most counterintuitive thing to do in your life. So like if we have an access condition, for example, let's say you have the kid's iPad in your hand, they will hit you. That's the behavior we're looking at, and then you just give them the iPad, and then you'll take it away after a little bit, and then no matter what they do, you don't provide the iPad, but if they hit you, then you just give them the iPad. So it feels really counterintuitive to run, especially if you've been doing this kind of work for a while. But that's the kind of like the gist of all of these different conditions. So in the attention condition, we provide attention if the targeted behavior occurs. Also, we provide an MO for attention, is that you are in the room, being in the room and ignoring them. I'm going to say not you, but someone is in the room. So that creates some deprivation for attention. There's somebody in the room straight ignoring them. They do whatever until they do the target behavior. Then we provide attention. One thing I'll also say for our conditions is that we design our conditions based off data from our indirect and direct assessments. So for example, let's say I took a lot of ABC data, and then I noticed that every time he hits, mom's like, stop it, don't do that. What I might actually do is have mom be the implementer and provide the same kind of consequences as she does in real life to make this experiment as realistic as possible. Because if this experiment isn't realistic, then it's like, why are we even doing this? Like, we're getting data that proves something that doesn't happen ever. So we need to make our conditions as realistic as possible as well. Also in our conditions, what we'll do is we'll provide abolishing operations for our other functions. So we have an AO for tangibles. We provide them moderately preferred toys. So like, don't give them the iPad that they're just going to get sucked into and not care about you, but give them something to do so we can be certain that it's not, that it's the attention that's getting the behavior and not anything else. And then we have an escape AO rather, and that's just no demands. Yeah, Miss TJ is actually asking a little bit about experimental designs. The reason we didn't cover that tonight is that because I already have a YouTube video about experimental designs. 15 minutes covers them all really nicely, so I would suggest that you go watch that. If you watch it like right after it, it'll feel like the study session like never even ended, so that'd be really cool. So that's our attention condition. We're gonna breeze through the last few so we can get through it. We have our escape condition. What we're gonna do is we're gonna provide an MO for escape. So we're gonna constantly provide demands and prompt through them. And then if behavior occurs, we stop providing the demands. So we got that negative reinforcement there. And then this one we provide AO for attention. Like, it's like the demands are the attention. And usually we don't bother about AO for tangible here. Alone condition. In this one, They're alone. No stimulation. And we just measure the rate of the behavior. One thing I will add here is that you need a one-way mirror, essentially, to run this well. Safely, rather. So you need to look in, be able to observe them. Then you can't look out. Best way to do an alone condition. Then we have our access tangible. In this one, we have preferred items locked up. If they engage in the behavior, we provide the item. And in this one, we'll have AO for attention. So we'll provide some non-contingent attention. That might be time delivery or just like natural conversation, however you want to design it. And then AO for escape, no demands. The reason I'm talking about these MOs and AOs for each of these is because our play condition, the control is our control condition. And what the control condition does is that it provides an abolishing operation for all of our social functions. So what we do is we provide them all the tangibles, all the attention, zero demands. So this is our control condition. So this is this is the comparison condition for all of the other conditions. And those are our test conditions. And the reason why it's a good control condition play is that we provide these abolishing operations for all of our functions. So AO for attention, constant attention for the individual. We will provide AO for escape, zero demands, and AO for tangibles or access, all the high preferred items. So most frequently, zero behavior occurs in the play condition. And often, if lots of behavior occurs in the play condition, 99% of the time, lots of behavior occurs in all of the conditions. And this is the best indicator of an automatic function of behavior. Because no matter what we did in our 5 different conditions here, they still engaged in the behavior. There was still something that reinforced the behavior, what was different between all 5 of these things. So if we see that, that's our best indicator of automatic reinforcement, that it's just the sensory sensations that are maintaining the behavior. So when we're doing a functional analysis, we will compare all of our data from our other conditions to this play control condition. All right. I think that's going to wrap us up for this evening. Few quick things before you go. Oh, unfortunately, I don't have all my links ready, but if you can give me a sec. If you would like to receive the notes from tonight's session, please go ahead and fill out the form that I am about to drop into chat. Looks like many of you have already done. Thank you so much for doing that. I'm glad you value these notes. How do I send this? Let me grab this link. Thanks for your patience. Here is the link for that form if you would like to receive the notes from tonight's session. If you like my style of teaching, I would love to help you out and tutor. I've worked with many of you guys already, and that's been really fun. And I've been doing this for 5 weeks now, 5 or 6 weeks, with understanding behavior, we already have 3 new BCBAs in the field as a result of that. So pretty cool stuff. Some of these BCBAs were like 20, 25 points off in just a few sessions, became a BCBA. So I thought that was pretty cool. Also, if you want to check out the rest of my stuff, I have a link tree that I will also drop into chat. I am posting daily questions on both Facebook and Instagram, so check those out. More YouTube videos are coming on the way. There will be another one posted tomorrow, in addition to the replay if you'd like to rewatch anything that we reviewed tonight. So go ahead and check those out. Share with your friends if you have some study buddies. I would love to see more of your friends here and all that cool jazz. And that's going to be it for me. I hope you guys have a great rest of your evening. Happy Friday Eve. Have a great weekend, and hopefully catch you next week around the same time. Laters.